Everyone, welcome back to 25 Sweetpeas and welcome back to the Christmas series. Today I'm going to be showing you how to illustrate this cute little reindeer mug, perfect for the holiday season, and would also make like a really cute ornament if you wanted to make it and print it out. So let's get going. Also, real quick reminder, if you want a quick overview of all of the tools that we will be using in today's video, I do have a video for that. I will link it down in the description box below and up in the cards. And if you need something a little bit more in depth, I have one of my favorite intro to Procreate videos listed as well for a quick reference if you need that. And today's video, we're going with a little bit more of a cozier vibe. So it's also a little bit longer than the rest, but I'm really excited to be showing you this. So let's go. Okay, so we are going to start by having a 3000 by 3000 canvas. My DPI is set to 300, so it's good print quality if I did decide I wanted to print it. And first things, we're going to check the layer panel, and I'm going to change the background color to kind of like a light blue shade. I do know that it doesn't show super well on camera, but it is a light blue shade, but of course you can pick whatever shade you want as a background. I would just kind of avoid white because we want some whipped topping on this drink that we're going to be making. So now we're going to name the first layer. I'm going to call it my sketch layer, and I'm going to go grab my sketching color. I like to use like a dusty navy-ish blue shade, and I'm going to grab my 6B pencil and kind of get ready. Before we fully jump into the illustration though, I'm going to go to the wrench panel, I'm going to press canvas, and I'm going to turn on my drawing guide. I'm going to turn up the grid size all the way so I have like this big plus that I can kind of use for centering my illustration. And now I'm on the sketch layer, and we're going to start sketching this mug. The great thing about this one is that once you get the sketching done, the process goes a lot easier. So I've created like this very squished oval, and then I am going to duplicate that same oval, and I'm going to pull it down directly underneath. I've got my snapping tools on so it stays in line with the top one. And you're going to kind of create the body of the mug here. So I'm going to create another layer. So right now we've got 3 layers, and on the third one we're going to connect the sides of these ovals. And once you've got that part done, you're going to like kind of see the mug shape there. But of course there are some lines that we're going to have to erase to fully get to that mug shape. But this is kind of like my shortcut way of creating a mug and making things look a little bit even. And since we are working digitally, we have the ability to do it, so why not? Once we've got those all connected, we are good to go on that front. I'm actually going to go and kind of create the inside rim of the mug. So we want to go find the layer that has the top oval on. If you named it the same as mine, it's called sketch. I'm going to actually duplicate that layer, and I'm going to shrink it down a little bit and then recenter it so it kind of gives us that ledge of like the rim of the mug, I should say. We don't need to worry about it being so precise in the back because we're going to be putting whipped cream on the top of this mug. So once you've got that part done, you can merge those layers. And now we need to find the bottom oval of the mug because it's time to erase that back line to make it more mug-like. So we're on there, we're on the right layer, and I'm going to carefully erase this line. Again, this is like the sketch, so if you mess up, it's not a huge big deal. Like, this is just our guideline that we're going to be following, so don't worry about getting everything too precise. Don't stress the little things, you know? Okay, so once I've got that done, it all looks like a mug. So I'm going to go ahead and merge all of those together. And now they're all on one layer called the sketch layer. And now we're going to add another layer. And I think next up we're going to start by adding the handle to the mug. Now, handles are the hardest part, so don't get stuck here. I have been there and I've gotten stuck here. But, you know, just try to make the weird handle shape. I don't even know how to describe what a handle shape is. It's kind of like half of a heart, actually. But yeah, we're going to try that here a few times. Again, this is a sketch. It's just a guideline. And I think rather than trying to make the thickness of it, I'm actually going to just duplicate that layer. I'm going to shrink it a little bit and kind of try to figure out how to make the thickness of the handle easier to do. See, we've got that, but I still need to kind of like fill in the rest of the line here. So I'm going to just freehand this line here and connect the handle to the mug. And yeah, this handle's not perfect by any means, but I feel like you can tell it's a handle. It doesn't look too terrible, so we're just gonna go with it. I'm gonna widen that a little bit to make it a little bit more sturdy if this were a real mug, you know? And yeah, I think we're gonna, well, hold on. I'm gonna clean up the sketch real quick here. Again, you don't have to do this. I was just being a bit picky. But once you've got that done, you can merge your handle so it's on the same layer as your mug. So it's all one piece now. It's all in the sketch layer, and I'm going to add another layer on top. And I think it's time that we start doing some of the fun details now that we've got the hard mug part out of the way. So now we're going to go in and start doing the whipped cream. So whipped cream is notoriously awkward to do, I guess you could say. It doesn't look like the most pleasant shape, but once we add like the illustrated details that are in the color form of this, it'll look a little bit better, I do promise. But you kind of, you know, you want a rounded point sort of at the top, and then I did like 2 swirls, as you could see here. And once you've got the good basis for that, again, it's not meant to be super detailed, and it's whipped cream. If you think about how that goes, you're not going to have a ton of like straight lines, so you want them to be rounded, and you want there to be about 2 layers and then your point. So once I've got that done, I obviously don't need the back of the mug in the sketch here, so we're going to go back to the sketch layer, and I'm just going to erase that line. And that's all good. So we've got that part done. I'm going to go ahead and give like the, let's say it's hot chocolate line in the mug to make it look like there's actually something in the mug that the whipped cream is sitting on top of. Now I'm going to add another layer. Actually, first let's name this layer that has whipped cream on it, and we're going to add a layer on top of it. And now we're going to start doing the kind of decoration details, because in this hot chocolate we have a fun little candy cane. And again, candy canes are not the easiest thing to illustrate, at least in my mind. I've struggled with candy canes in the past, so I've created like the base hook for it, and then I've duplicated it, and I'm gonna do that same trick that I did with the handle, where I kind of just make it fit the right thickness. And then once I've got it to a point where I like it, I'm gonna fill in the rest of the line sort of free-handed, because we've got that good defined thickness to already go by, and round off the hook. And that is kind of the basis for my candy cane, and we've got them on separate layers right now. So I'm going to go back to the whipped cream and erase where we wouldn't see that whipped cream line. Now I'm back on the candy cane layer, and I think it is time that we kind of make the candy cane stripes. So because a candy cane is rounded, you don't want like just straight stripes. You want them sort of at a slant, and you can decide your thickness. You can decide if you wanted to change it up and have multiple different colors of stripes, but I'm just going to make it like I'm just going to do red stripes on the white, or vice versa. I don't know. But yeah, just kind of these curved lines, and we don't have to worry about counting them in this regards. I know in some things like you would want like an even amount of stripes, but in this case it doesn't really matter. Now I'm also going to go in on the same layer and kind of just signify where I possibly want to put some sprinkles on top of the whipped cream to make it look more fun and festive. And I'm just drawing or sketching little not kind of ovals, kind of not, skinnier than ovals, rounded rectangles. And yeah, I'm just gonna lay those around. You could really have a lot of fun with this and add maybe a cookie or a gingerbread, or just really anything. There's so much customization you could do to this, but we are making the one that's shown in the corner from the 12 Days of Christmas event. I'm now gonna merge everything to the same layer. So everything's on the sketch layer, and now I'm going to add a new layer, and we're going to start adding the like mug art, as you could say, which is a cute little reindeer. We're going to make it Rudolph because I feel like that's a stereotypical thing that you need to do, and because it'll make the nose a fun color. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a circle at the bottom of the mug where I want the nose to be, and I'm going to go ahead and do the circle and make it like a perfect shape with the built-in Procreate tools, and then I'm just going to erase half of it that doesn't fit on the mug. So now that we've got the half of the nose, and the next part we're doing, I'm gonna add a new layer just to make sure everything is like separated. and makes it easier for erasing. And we're going to put in kind of like this weird V-like shape to kind of create like the nose of the reindeer, like the part that leads you to the nose. And just freehand this until you like it. It took me a few tries to get it to the part where I liked it because, you know, we're working with some weird curves here. And also you got to keep in mind that the mug overall itself is also curved. But once you've got it to a point that you're liking, we can then move on to creating the little eyes. So I decided to make it kind of like a sleeping reindeer, and also a nice way to avoid having to do an eye illustration. So I'm just going to put like an eyelash line and put 3 eyelashes on each and kind of make it look just really cute, kind of like those like unicorn cakes where they have those eyes that way. And I feel like that makes for a super cute mug. And honestly, in real life, I would totally drink out of a mug like that. It's just really cute. So you can go ahead and merge everything together. And now your sketch is on one layer. It's time to think about centering it. I've got my selection tool. I've selected the layer. But because of the shape of the mug and having the handle on the side, centering it with the plus sign grid guide thingy that we already put in place doesn't work 100%. So you kind of just have to eyeball it. I feel like you can use the tip of the whipped cream as kind of an indicator as the middle and not worry about the mug handle or the candy cane. So kind of go from that, but really just eyeball it and see what you like the best. Who knows, we might end up changing it later, but now it's time to start doing the colors. So I'm going to go turn my sketch mode onto a multiply blend mode as the multiply one. And I'm going to turn down the opacity so I can't really see it a ton, but I can still use it as a guide. I'm going to add a new layer and pull it underneath my sketch. And now it's time to start coloring. So for this color palette, we're going to be using a lot of like browns, creams, whites, reds, and, you know, just your traditional Christmassy colors that you might want to use for your sprinkles. I think I ended up using, I don't remember what I ended up using. I've done this a few times, so I don't know. But once you've got a decent like reindeer color that you like, it is time for you to start filling in your mug. I do find it helpful to go ahead and like outline the mug to start with and then kind of fill in the whole thing, even the parts that aren't going to be brown. That way you kind of have something that you could use a clipping mask on, which will make more sense when we move on to that. So let's speed through this coloring section because it is going to get a little probably boring watching me just fill this in. I will mention that I am still using the 6B pencil from the Drawing Box brush pack that I have linked down in the description box below. It has such a nice texture that I still use it for filling in things beyond just sketches because it does really have that nice kind of gritty texture and I just like how that appears. So now let's fill in. Now we're going to move on to coloring in the handle, which I am going to do on a separate layer from the colored mug that I did. So I'm going to add a layer, and I'm actually going to pull that layer behind the mug. But first off, we're just going to fill in the handle. So as you can see, I pulled the handle behind the mug, and I'm going to go ahead and name these colored layers just to keep things organized. So that one's called mug. Then we've got the handle on this one. And then we're going to start getting to the details of the mug. So we're going to add a new layer. And I'm going to actually use a clipping mask, and this layer needs to be on top of the mug so it clips to only the mug. So now I'm going to kind of grab like a creamy color for the inside part of the nose. Now I've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and add another layer and also clip it to the mug, and I'm going to put in the red nose. I'm just going to fill this in. Again, I'm still using the 6B pencil from the drawing box brush set that I have linked down in the description box. I'm going to fill this in. I decided to go with a pretty vibrant red just because I feel like if it's Rudolph's nose, you know, it needs to be shining bright. Also, before I'm done with this nose completely, I'm going to go in and make my red very much a white shade and just put a little shine line on the nose to make it a little more over the top and fun. Now I'm going to grab a black and I'm going to put the eyes/eyelashes on. And this, again, is still on the nose layer, and the nose layer is clipped to the mug. Therefore, everything that I do on this layer is only going to stay on the mug. Okay, now that we've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and add another layer. I'm going to pick the same color that I used for coloring the mug, and I'm going to turn on the multiply blend mode. And then I'm going to clip this layer to the mug as well. And now I'm going to do some shading. So I'm still using that same color, but because I've got the multiply blend mode on, it looks darker than the original color that we used to color the mug. And I'm just going to smudge it out to kind of give some shadowing on this mug to make it look a bit more rounded and a little less flat. So you can do this until you're happy with it. I like to do it on the sides. I did add a little bit on the bottom ledge as well. I'm going to turn off my sketch just to make sure I like all the lines and everything. I'm going to add a little bit more down here. I'm going to smudge that out. And yeah, this is already making the mug look so much better. Okay, sorry about that. Whoa, I'm not sure why that's doing that. Sorry about the coloration in this video going in and out. I think it's because I was filming at night. So now I'm going to go ahead and put another layer on top of the handle, and I've also turned on the multiply blend mode on that layer, and I'm going to put some shadows on top of the handle. And I know you can't really see it in this part, but the same process that I just did on the mug I am doing on top of the handle to give it some shadows and some depth and make it look a little less flat as well. There you can see, and once I'm happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and merge the handle layers together, and then I'm going to put everything into a group. And I'm going to go ahead and like name this group like mug components or mug parts, you know, whatever you feel like naming it. But I'm going to collapse that layer collapse that group, add a new layer and put it underneath. And now I'm going to work on the inside of the mug. So as you guys can see, it has an inside, and I'm going to go ahead and make it the same color as the nose. So I used my finger and I color picked that from the illustrated part that I already did. And I'm going to fill this little section in right here. Once that is done, I'm going to grab like a deep dark brown shade, and I'm going to fill in the part next to the whipped cream to make it look like there's hot chocolate in this mug. Now we've got that part done, I'm going to go ahead and add another layer, and this layer is going to be on top of the mug group that we already have. And now it is time to find the color that you want to use for whipped cream. So I did end up using like a creamy color that also had a bit of a gray tone in it during this part, but later on in the video we're actually going to go in and correct it because I ended up not liking it. So at this part, go ahead and use a stark white if you have one, or you feel like it, if it like works with the background color that you've selected. Otherwise, you might want to go for a creamy color. But I'm going to go in with this color for now. I'm going to fill it in, and that's going to become our whipped cream. And I know right now it doesn't have much definition, but we will add some shading to kind of make it have a little bit more of that definition that is lacking. So now that that layer is all colored, I'm going to go ahead and put an alpha lock on it and grab a shade that's a little bit darker than it, and we're going to start adding some shading. So this shading part, I really only want to kind of go on where those layers meet, as you guys can see here. So I'm going to follow this line and this one, and it's hard to see it with the sketch on there, but it is happening. I also feel like it needs to be a little bit darker. Again, you are probably going to have to do this as like a trial and error and turn on and off your sketch so you can see if you like it. So we're going to turn it off. You can definitely tell it needs to be blended out, so I'm going to go ahead and blend it out. I've got the alpha lock on, so that means everything is going to stay within the shape that I've already colored. And yeah, that brought a lot of definition to it. It kind of gives you the illusion that there are layers of whipped cream here, and I think I'm just gonna add a little bit more towards the rim of the mug, and I think we're gonna call that one good for now. So we're gonna add another layer. I'm gonna grab a stark white, and it's time to start illustrating the candy cane. So the candy cane is going in front of the whipped cream, which actually I should go and name that layer. So we're gonna name the whipped topping layer. Then we're gonna go back to layer 10, I think it is. And I'm just going to name it candy cane. That way there's no confusion here. We know where the candy cane is. So I'm going to start here. Oops. Sometimes it doesn't pick up my writing correctly, but sometimes it does. So I've got my 6B pencil again, and it is time to start illustrating the white base of the candy cane. So I've got a new layer above the candy cane, and it's clipped to the white base of the candy cane, and I've grabbed red, and I'm going to start filling in these stripes colors. Of course, you don't have to do them in any particular order. I just started with red at the bottom. That way there was a major contrast against the mug, but of course you can do it in whichever order you would like. We're just going to use the sketch guides and fill this out. And that is like the easiest way that I've found to do a candy cane. And I feel like the curvedness of the lines totally helps. Now I'm gonna put an alpha lock on that, and actually, let's see. I feel like we need to give it some definition. But nah, we're just gonna merge them for now, and we will do a new layer on top of it, do a clipping mask, and I'm gonna grab a gray shade and then turn on my multiply blend mode and kind of give it some shadow on the inside of the candy cane hook. So when you use a gray on a multiply blend mode, it kind of just darkens the colors that are underneath it, and then I can smear it out. That kind of just gives like a nice shadowy effect and make it look a little bit more. I will say at this part, I'm like not super happy with it. So I think we will probably address it again later in the video and add some more definition to it to make it look a little less flat and a little bit more real. But at this part, once I've got it to a point where I'm like okay with it, you can, yeah, as you can tell, I'm just still like blurring things out until I'm happy with it. And then it was too much. So then I grabbed my eraser and kind of went in and messed with it. But that's like a part of this, you know, you're trying new things. And my camera is very overexposed at the moment. Everything's too bright. Okay. So once you get the candy cane to a part that you semi-like, you know, you're good for now. And we will come back. That's like the best thing I've learned from doing art is if something's not working, take a break from it and come back. We're working on non-destructive layers within Procreate, so you don't have to like commit to one thing. You can come back later and change your mind, which is fabulous. So we have added a new layer, and I'm still using that 6B pencil, and it is time to put in some sprinkles. So as you guys can see, I'm basically just putting an elongated line that's a little chunky. I'm just using like the pressure of my brush to make the lines thicker or not. And I'm gonna do red, I'm gonna do some green, but of course you guys can go with whatever sprinkle colors you would like. You could even throw in like some round sprinkles or some stars. Like there's so many possibilities here. After the green, I think maybe like a blue, maybe a turquoise. Let's try this. I don't hate this blue, but I also don't like love this blue. I feel like it needs to be turquoise. So I erased those. I'm gonna grab a turquoise that feels more in my element. And yeah, I like this color scheme because it's very Christmassy, but also like boho, but also leans a little towards beachy. Okay, and I think I'm gonna do one more color, and I think for that I'm actually gonna go ahead and grab like a light pink to kind of pull in just a fun girly tone to it. And I've got those sprinkles done. I think I like them. So I think they need a little bit of shadowing behind them. So what I'm going to do is duplicate the sprinkles layer. I'm going to grab the same color that I did for the whipped topping. And I'm going to turn the second layer of the sprinkles on a alpha lock, fill that layer with the same color as whipped cream, and then turn on the multiply blend mode. And then pull them down slightly. If that didn't make sense, I did go a little fast and I apologize for that. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. But as you guys can see, it did add a little bit of shadow. It's not quite dark enough, so I'm actually going to go into the adjustments menu and make it a little bit darker by turning down the brightness. And now you can see like the little shadows behind the sprinkles. It's not a major detail, but from the artist's point of view, I feel like you will notice the difference that it makes, and it will make you feel like it has more definition to it. So now I'm going to go ahead and add in some shading to the sprinkles. For this, what I'm going to do is go back to the main sprinkle layer, turn an alpha lock on, and then I'm going to grab the same color of the sprinkle that I'm working on, turn down the brightness and turn up the saturation, and give it a little line on the bottom of the sprinkle to give it some, you know, shape. Again, less flat, a little bit more 3D. Okay, now that that is done, I think it's time that we organize our layers a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and group all of the toppings together. Hold on, this has like this little part that needs erased. It's touching the candy cane. Okay, now that I've taken care of that, we're going to go ahead and grab all like the toppings, so the candy cane, the sprinkles, whipped cream, and make them into a group so they're organized, and then we can make that group layer toppings. And now our layer panel looks a little neater. I'm going to go ahead and add another layer. I'm going to put it behind everything, and it's time that we add some texture in the background. So I'm going to grab the same color that I used for the background. I'm going to turn it up in saturation, down in brightness, turn on multiply blend mode, and I'm just going to put a little shadow behind the mug. You can't really see it here. Sorry about that. Again, it overexposed because we were in the dark. But I'm going to smudge out the shadow to just like kind of give the illusion that the mug is not floating. Now we can see it a little bit. Nope, now we can. So I've got that done, and in all the other pieces that I've done for this series thus far, we have gone in and added like this nice speckledy texture in the background. So I'm going to add another layer, turn on the multiply blend mode, still have the same color selected, and I'm going to go grab a brush from the Gladys Things, and I'm just going to kind of like sprinkle it all over the background. Turn down the opacity just a little bit, that way we still get that illusion of texture, but it's not super strong. Then I'm going to turn off my grid guide, and our illustration is basically done. I'm still like not 100% happy with the coloring of the whipped cream, so I think we're going to work with this here and see if we can get it to stand out a little bit more. So since we have everything organized, I can go open. Actually, before we do that, I think the candy cane needs a little help, so I think maybe adding a little bit of a shine line maybe. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. Okay, new layer. I'm on top of the candy cane, and I'm going to grab the same brush that I've been working with, the 6B pencil from the drawing box. I think I'm just going to, no, that's not quite right. I feel like it needs a little shine line, because if the light were hitting it, it would be giving off like a shiny candy glow. So let's see here. That's not quite enough. So kind of just work with this until you're happy with it. As you can tell, I'm trying a lot of different things because I'm not thrilled. Also, I feel like the whipped cream needs to be changed colored wise. Let's just like do a very, very light side pencil like texture to get the glowiness on the candy cane. Okay, just go in lightly, and that little bit of a highlight. Ooh. Okay, now I think we're onto something. It's just like a slight highlight on the candy cane. I feel like that added a lot of details. Okay, I like that. Now to the whipped cream. I've got that layer selected. It already has an alpha lock on. So all I have to do is pick a different color that I like. So I'm actually going to do it with a stark white, and actually just fill that layer. So I'm going to press fill layer, and now it's a bright white and it looks so much better. I'm just going to go to my color picker and make the bright white a little like have a hint of gray in it, so that way I can add those details for the making like the layers look a little bit more realistic and actually like layers. So I've added a layer on top of the whipped cream. I'm going to add a little bit of a gray shadowing here to give that definition in between the layers of the swirl, I guess you could say. And I'm going to also put a little bit of a shadow behind the candy cane to make the white part of the candy cane stand out against the white part of the whipped cream. And I'm going to use the smudge tool, kind of smudge them out. That way it's not so like line art as much as just like shading and shadows. And okay, add a little bit more of a shadow behind the candy cane, smudge out the top parts. And I already like this so much more than that creamy color we did earlier. But again, a cream color might work for you. It all just depends about what color you select as the background for your overall illustration. And I did go with like a sky blue part. So just play with this part until you are happy and content with it. Also, now that I've done that, I feel like we need a little bit of a shadow behind the whipped cream on the like back part of the mug that we can kind of see peeping over the wall. So I'm going to go and add a layer on top of the mug. Actually, no, I'm just going to go back to the mug back and add a bit of a darker red there on the whipped cream. And I'll do the same for that little hot chocolate bit at the bottom. And again, this is basically just me being a little bit nitpicky. It looked perfectly fine before. I just wanted to add a little bit of shading. So if you don't feel like going into this depth, no problem whatsoever. You still have like a really fun and cute illustration. I absolutely love how this turned out, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I think that basically wraps everything up for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you do create this, please share on social media and tag me and use the 12 Days of Christmas 2021 hashtag. Again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye!